Greetings and welcome. My name is Michael Miller. This is a Michael Miller trademark training video out to you because you're watching. Thank you and welcome. It's meant for Michael Miller Pilates licensed affiliates, the licensed presenters, the Core New Core, my patrons, and anyone interested in surviving and thriving as a Pilates instructor. Patreon.com if you wish to become part of the group I thank when I thank my patrons. Patreon. Just two things today. It's been such a crazy day, crazy few days. I sent out an email yesterday. I was aiming for early Sunday morning, and that didn't happen. That was an effort to synthesize feedback I got from two different friends that came in to me pointing to Gen Zers, Generation Z as opposed to Generation Y, as opposed to Millennials. Something's in there, and then baby boomers, I think, right? So at the young end of the spectrum, from 4 to 24, Generation Z. They show independent characteristics, self-confidence, autonomy, and an ability to make money at an earlier age because of the technology, which has been in line with the series of emails I'm sending talking about on one sheet of paper is the offer to explain CT and MMP for this much money over this much time, paid in advance, and you turn it over, and there's all those ways of bringing money towards you, of getting paid. Why is this? This is all to, here is common knowledge, here is the bulk of the way it is within the Pilates culture. Okay? When you entertain, well, I got lost on Generation Z. Oh, and their characteristics. And so that's the generation, as a teacher, that I want the youngest possible people to know how to make income explaining two things, CT and MMP. That's my pitch. And so, when I'm trying to digest input from a friend that says, consider a broader audience and look across different generations, that's what took me to Gen Z, and I still wasn't sure where to come from that or what that meant to me. And out of the blue, I had a friend call me who was outspoken and said, nobody cares, roughly speaking. It was more like, nobody cares about the method. Nobody gives a bleep about Pilates. You know, it might have mattered at one point in time, but the way it mattered then isn't the way it is now. And so because of the input from my first friend that suggested I consider a broader palette, and what is it in for me, who is your student, right, or customer, what do they get out of it? So when my second friend goes on and says, there's only one thing that people care about. And I totally wasn't ready for this. But she said, being skinny. All anybody wants to do is be skinny. And it seems such a clear, general description, poetic in nature, right? And so I got to run with that and think, all right, then if my objective is to identify what you get out of your pursuit of what I have to offer, there's so much in this that is a real reflection when the point of view that I'm promoting to you, I care a lot about. And yet, hearing the truth of the matter that nobody cares about Pilates, and the comment went, except maybe in some other country, right? So it was like making a distinction that in America, USA, where I live, nobody cares about Pilates anymore. But that it may exist or people may care about it in other countries, but it didn't seem to matter one way or another to them. It's about how it is here. So because in your understanding of my broadcasting about core new tension and MMP, Michael Miller Pilates, one is a point of view of biomechanics and the other is a point of view of Pilates. The point of view of biomechanics, or biotensegrity if you prefer, of core new tension is that it applies to the human being, by whatever name you call it. It's oppositional rotation between axes, and that matters in a big way for how the body distributes its load and tunes into the sensation of alignment that comes out of the tension between 2 points, say shoulders in here, or here and here, or ears down to metatarsals. So in terms of being encouraged to reflect on what does my audience get out of what I'm teaching, where's the value, or from their point of view, what do they get out of it? And from a customer's point of view, which was I was being fed a customer paradigm, which is great. What do they get out of it? What's the inducement to be a customer? So I can understand why nobody cares about Pilates anymore, because it's sunk into its own ignorance of itself. But core new tension, on the other hand, is how you make oppositional rotation between axes. And I think this was such a great thing, right? Here gravity is pushing down on us, right? Pushing down on us, right? How does one push back? Well, within the POV of MMP, you create rotational dynamic at different axes in your body, and from the engagement of those, from having a grip here and a grip here, you get this, skinny. So the engagement of core nu tension makes you skinny by the very nature of how you engage yourself. So you don't have to understand any of it to know that, to see this image and say, well, if I take the grip that I have, I'm capable of in my hips, and find a connection to the one on my shoulders, see, that's, how do you find the connection? Where is the connection? How do you get to the connection? Well, I would suggest you get to the connection flying the TVA. TVA, initials for transverse abdominis. Major connections between the rib cage and the hips that allows the shoulder dynamic of rotation at the shoulders to connect into and interact with the rotation at the hips. And the same thing is true of the ears to the shoulders, especially. Easiest. So, if you have the ability to rotate here and you have the ability to rotate here, in that oppositional rotation, you lengthen. You get more skinny. And because of the nature of the engagement being so reflective of the physics that we're trying to survive in and move through as a human being, that's what got me to, okay, if the customer, the Gen Z, all they care about is skinny, and then much later, but skinny, 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 but much later is to look good, and then past that to look pretty. But first and foremost, skinny. And then skinny is improved by however you can make yourself look better, look good. What you wear, that kind of stuff. And then look pretty, which I thought was fascinating in terms of priorities and what people want, or what the youth wants. They want to be skinny. Then what the youth has to get out of, or what's in it for the youth to know about CT, is how to engage in core nu skinny. Engaging in core nu tension, oppositional rotation between axes, especially between the shoulders and the hips, because we're talking about skinny through here. That's core nu skinny. And of course that becomes your avenue into teaching them everything else you know about core nu tension, and hopefully the explanation of Pilates that I offer you, as well as whatever else you make of it on your own. I encourage you to recognize, or just entertain the notion that CT and MMP are these large mountains of identification. And as much as one of my friends sent me information about tensegrity and the shapes that they make, I'm all over Buckminster Fuller and tensegrity and all the domes around the world. And the very same physics that validate tensegrity, maybe not the very same, but in the world of physics, tensegrity is what it is. But this deal of multiple axes within the organism of a human being and the way those axes interact with each other to move through space, recognizing that the biology is accomplishing the physics. To the extent you recognize that, it does, and I'm talking about coronary tension and how the biology has evolved into the capability of doing what I'm pointing to. And because nobody else points to it, I named it coronary tension. Somebody smarter and brighter will come along and say, well, but I'm smarter about it, and here's what it really is, and therefore I'm naming it. Well, the person that will make a significant contribution, hopefully one of the people I've approached, but mathematicians and biologists, to come up with an equation of coronary tension and its interactivity across multiple endpoints, like 6. All along I've been encouraging you to know what you know and picking up what I'm trying to present. And that's an explanation of what I call biomechanics. It's the way the body engages itself to move through space. And that has to do with the human body, and that's different from a point of view of Pilates, which there are many of. Yours and mine and everybody else's. In the number 2 title, where nobody cares and nobody gives a bleep, and Pilates has been moved on from to a pursuit of skinny, and whatever will get you skinny is what is pursued. In a building collapse, where all of that dust comes out from the collapse, like Pilates' interest and collapsing in the U.S. and just dawning in a passion in South America, right? Recognizing the spectrum of where it's of interest to the public versus when it's not. And see, really what I wanted to get onto in this subject was how there's a distinction between where the public's interest is, where I think the comment I was getting from my friend was that in the United States, Pilates is history. Whatever it was, it's something special, is over and gone. I get that, I understand that, and I see that. But from that collapsing into itself of an imploding building, or of a volcano erupting where there's a burst, or where the Starship Enterprise is speeding away from a planet that's blowing up, right? I see the MMP POV as what escapes from that outcome, if you had hung around. And that's because it looks at Pilates for what it is and tries to explain by theory, based on evidence that comes out of Joe's book, and it's in that explanation, is the escape from the implosion. Still, we're talking a few generations here, and way beyond what matters to me personally, but more speaking about when looking ahead. So in core new tension, it comes from your imagination, to engage in it, see. To be core new skinny takes your imagination to figure this out. And then once you figure it out and know that that's how the biology accomplishes the physics, and that there is nothing more skinny than core new skinny, you give to someone what they want by an understanding of how to get it. As best you can while you can. Because life can't live forever. Read between the lines, see behind the curtain, connect the dots, evaluate points of view. I challenge you to make an offer. I'll explain CT and MMP for $2 for 10 minutes or 20 minutes, but not too long, just not too short, but, and then just go around the carousel knowing that all you're covering is repeated exposure to 3 things from Joe's book and 2 things from yours truly. Evaluate points of view. Surrender to the significance of what you know. And then add 2 and 2. Direct your thinking. Geist.